What's good, everybody? This is Jason of Auglitical. As always, I swim through the politics so you don't drown too. I'm just a man trying to bring common sense in a world where common sense isn't so common. So I'm not gonna sit here in front. I've been skimming through this. This popped up on my radar, and it was just like, damn. This thing that I'm about to cover looks real bad. And the more that I glance over it, the more things that pop up and go, wow. And you know what? I want to share this with you guys. So there was an event that happened, I'm guessing in Canada, where there was a lady who basically they told her to put on a mask for, I'm not going to say what type of medical ailment or whatever, but they told her to put on a mask, and then they proceeded to strangle this woman, and this woman died. And just some real shady shit went down. So let's cover it, shall we? Guards cleared in hospital death of Stephanie Warriner. Here's the footage no jury will ever see. Surprise move by judge mean trial now won't happen, leaving family blindsided. Danielle Stephanie Warriner sits alone in a Toronto hospital lobby wearing little more than a pale blue medical gown. Moments later, she's wheeled away by guards. Her slight frame slumped in a wheelchair, her legs dangling from the edge. What happens in between isn't captured on video. Now, the reason why it's not captured on video, and we're going to look at the video, of course, in this video, but it's real suspect what happens here. And it's not even speculation, even though you would think, okay, this is weird. Why wasn't it captured if part of it was captured? And then you find out, you think, oh, maybe they're trying to cover up something, and then they admitted that they covered up something. Again, this it gets wild. Let's continue. Instead, a security camera was purposely turned away as guards approached a 43-year-old, pushed her against the wall, and restrained her on the ground before she lost consciousness, never to regain it. Those scenes, and mind you, she's only 43. Those scenes were part of the evidence that would have been heard at the trial of the guard charged at Warrener's death at Toronto's General Hospital on May 2020. Real quick update, family of Stephanie Warriner files 16 million lawsuit against hospital guards over alleged force. And you know what? I hope that they win. Now that won't happen. And a surprise move by Ontario judge on November the 22nd, the case against the guards has been squashed, and the trial that was supposed to begin this May struck from the docket. Sounds like some underhanded shit's going on here. Sound real shady. Sound real shady. Sounds like that judge was paid off. For months, Warrener's family has waited for their day in court. Instead, they say they're now left blindsided. My first reaction was shock, horror. Warrener's sister Denise told CBC News. There's been no accountability, and there's a gaping hole in my heart. Yeah, this whole thing is wrong. This whole thing, there's red flags all over this right here. This is messed up. This ought to have been put to trial. I'm sorry, I messed up here. She was a very tiny woman who was clearly unwell, sitting dealing with respiratory distress, and they wrangled her to death. There was no lawful reason for them to have ever put hands on her. She says she believes. This ought to have been put to trial. Amanda Silva, 42, and Shane Hutley, 35, have been charged with manslaughter and criminal negligence in Warrener's death. Charges they denied, saying they used only the force necessary to gain a hold of her. Now remember that. They denied this. Now those charges have been dropped after a judge concluded there wasn't enough evidence to take the case to trial, a decision CBC News has learned the Crown won't appeal. That despite the... Wait, you know what? Let's turn this dark. Bam. That despite the available video footage, two security staff who testified the accused placed weight on the upper body while she was held chest down, a forensic pathologist who testified Warriner would still be alive had she had not been restrained that day, and revelations are one of the guards admitting he falsely claimed Warriner threw the first punch. So all of these things are stacked, saying something bad took place here. And the judge just goes, you know what? We're not gonna take this. That judge, that's it's looking bad. It's looking bad. Multiple different things are showing that the hospital was in the wrong. Not in the wrong as, oh, they made a mistake, oh, things happen. In the wrong, and they are trying to cover it up. That's what's going on here. Sounds like somebody bigger needs to step in. If that's the thing. I don't know how Canada gets it in. I don't know. I don't know. Until now, much of the evidence in Warrener's death has been covered by a publication ban. There it is. Censorship. And I already know in Canada it's even worse, right? I'm pretty sure in Canada it's much, much worse. With the case quashed, CBC News can now report on the details that have never been made public and reveal the footage a jury will never see. Bro, how are you journalists and you not even how you guys a news network or whatever like that and you guys get, man. All right. So this is the video. Damn, it's not. Hold on. Let's just make sure that everything is good on my end before I mess around and yep, everything looks checks out there. Okay. Let's play it. So the lady's sitting there and they're approaching her. They wanted to put her on a mask. She has the mask on her chin, right? All of that stuff. Now look at the camera. Watch the camera. So mind you, these are not movements of an automated camera. If somebody would think that, oh, the camera just happened to change. No, these movements are not the movements of a camera. I mean, this is not a automated movement. This thing is not sensing movement. This is a person controlling the camera. This is a bad look. But it gets worse. So they approach her, right? They're all gowning up. I don't really understand why. Push up against the wall, and then look at this person. Now this is where it gets really bad. So eventually it skips forward, right? And now you're going to see the lifeless body of Miss Warriner, right? It just skips forward, and at that point it's just like, damn. I'm guessing that they really wish that they could just destroy footage at this point, unless it's closed circuit and that footage got recorded somewhere else and someone else got it, because this evidence is damning. This is real bad for them. But of course, the judge squashed this, right? Play it forward. You see that? She's dead. Treated as COVID positive, Warner was the younger of two sisters, tiny but mighty, and loved hard, her sister recalls. She also struggled with bipolar disorder, substance abuse, and in the months leading up to her death, found herself living in a shelter after a breakup. She died on May 27th, 16 days after the incident in that hospital lobby. They say that she died afterwards. That's what they're saying, she died afterwards. On May 10th, Warner. Okay. She died afterwards. I thought that she died right there. They're saying that she died afterwards. That's up to you guys to discuss. If you guys think that, unless she died from complications, though, you got people who are experts in the field saying, listen, she died because of that restraint, the hold that she had on her. But and here's the thing. This is the reason why I'm questioning this. Because let's continue. Let's just continue, right? Let's continue with the story. On May 10th, Warner, who suffered from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, arrived in hospital with a cough and short of breath. She was early in the COVID-19 pandemic, and Warner was presumably treated as COVID positive, though it was later found she tested negative. Sounds familiar? CVC investigates. She was restrained by hospital guards and later died. A security camera was purposely turned as it happened. Manslaughter charges laid against the guards involved in a hospital restraint that led to Toronto woman's death. The next day, Warriner left the COVID floor to get something to eat, according to a coroner's report, and was spotted by hospital staff in the lobby with her mask down around her neck. Surveillance video captures part of what happened next. Around 6:38 a.m., Warriner is seen sitting in a chair near a pillar in the hospital lobby. A couple of meters in front of her, Rojas-Silva dons personal protective equipment with help from another guard, all while appearing to speak to Warriner. Court heard that Silva knew Warriner had left the hospital against medical advice before and repeatedly told her to put on her mask from a distance before approaching her. The defense argued Warriner refused, swore at Silva, and threatened to have her fired. With her PPE gown on, Silva walks towards Warriner and continues speaking to her, gesturing inches from her face. As this happens, a second guard, Hutley, walks into view from the right and also begins putting on a gown. One more guard walks into view from the right and also dons PPE. By this time, Warriner is seen on her feet and appears to briefly raise her right arm before Rojas-Silva takes her to a nearby wall, with Hutley approaching from behind. The camera then pans away, meaning what happens next isn't captured on video, of course, because that's what we just saw in the video. At a preliminary, why can't I say that? I just said that word not even yesterday. I said that word. The guard who turned the camera testified that he turned the camera away because he panicked and got really anxious. Bro, it's your job. That is your job. What do you mean you panicked? Court heard that guard was allowed to keep his job. Asked about that decision and whether Rojas-Silva and Hutley would be also allowed to keep their jobs with the charges against them now dropped, University Health Network spokesperson Gillian Howard told CBC News, UHN will not comment on a court's decision, nor do we comment on the individual hiring process or employee discipline.
At the end of the day, the details, not to say that they're irrelevant at this point, because certainly they're important to the case, but they're never going to bring my sister back. And that is what is a gaping hole, is that she's gone. She will never experience, we will never have those life experiences with her again. We won't have memories. We just won't have any more life with her.
Everyday life kind of still goes on, but every time we hear something from the detective, every time we hear something from the investigation, it just opens that wound up every single solitary time.
At the end of the day,
by about 6:41 a.m., the guards are seen wheeling Warriner down the hall, her body slumped and legs splayed, not moving. They turn left into an elevator bay and disappear from view. Court heard it was there that Rojas-Silva noticed something was wrong and started checking for a pulse. The guards removed Warriner's handcuff as Rojas-Silva called a cold blue and began doing chest compressions. So she did die at that point. The coroner's report would conclude Warriner died from a brain injury resulting from a lack of oxygen. With her due to a restraint asphyxia, following struggle and exertion, with her underlying lung disease a possible factor. But for her interaction with the applicants, Miss Warriner would likely be alive today. The forensic pathologist testified at the preliminary hearing, according to the Crown. Lawyers for the accused argued the forensic pathologist lacked the expertise to come to that conclusion. Still, in quashing the case, Superior Court Justice Sheen Dunphy noted there is evidence that death could have been the accumulation of the factors he described. Guards claim force was used as a last resort. In the absence of footage from the moments on the ground, two eyewitnesses testified the accused held the 125-pound woman down by her upper body despite her training warnings of the risk of doing so. There is a risk of positional restraint asphyxia due to the person's body weight pressing down on their chest and the fact that the patient cannot support herself when her hands are handcuffed behind her back, the Crown noted, citing testimony from the guard's supervisor. According to UHN, policy documents seen at the preliminary hearing, guards can use force only when all other interventions fail. As well, they're required to use only the amount of force necessary to control a situation and only in extreme emergencies such as self-defense, defense of others, or under the direction of medical staff. So here's the thing. Was this woman was this woman showing signs of violence or anything like this? Because immediately she was pressed up against the fucking wall. Real quick, they pressed this woman up against the wall. The woman's 125 pounds. 125 pounds. She had not only one woman on her, she had two men and then some on her. At least from what I saw, I think it was like four bodies. As they grappled on the ground, two witnesses testified Warriner was flailing her arms and legs, shouting as the two guards, Rojas-Silva and Huckley, took control of her limbs. A third guard applied handcuffs, so there was three people. Okay. In a document filed by her lawyer, Rojas-Silva claimed she took Warriner to the wall as a last resort after extensive efforts to verbally de-escalate an aggressive patient. Her supervisor testified he felt her actions were wrong. Pointing in Warner's face and standing in her personal space, for example, would have been triggering. Wow, that's the first time that I actually would accept that word. The supervisor said adding video to the incident is now shown in hospital training. Wait, what? They're using that video as training now? Bro, oh my gosh, are you serious? Oh, that's messed up, bro. But as for whether the guards used more force than necessary to gain a hold of Warner, the judge concluded on November 22nd, there is no evidence that either accused applied any weight to the upper body. How would you know if the camera was turned? That shit just that shit look real bad. How could a judge say that? Yo, there's something going on. There is no evidence that either accused applied any weight to the upper body beyond that associated with gaining control of and holding her hands or arms while handcuffs were being applied. Guard admitted that he had not been truthful. In the aftermath of the incident, both guards claimed Warner repeatedly assaulted Rojas-Silva before she went hands-on. But during an internal investigation by the hospital, court heard Hutley later admit that didn't happen. Mr. Hutley went as far to claim Miss Warner delivered several overhand and underhanded punches to Mrs. Rojas' face and was kicking her feet, says a court document by the Crown. Hospital officials then confronted Hutley with the footage of the incident, playing it for him multiple times. Later on, Mr. Hutley began sobbing and admitted he had not been truthful in the report, saying, "I'm sorry. I would have never said the things I said if I knew there was a video." Bro, what? So, you wouldn't have lied if there was evidence that you're a fucking liar? To see a judge decide to quash a case in this way is rare, said Toronto criminal lawyer Frank Adario, who isn't associated with the case. It is not common for a judge to screen out a case before it is set to trial, Adario said. The system is set up so after a preliminary inquiry, the cases are generally set onto trial because the bar to get a case sent on the trial is very low. But the rare case where the bar is not exceeded with the evidence, the judge's obligation is to screen it out. In a statement of CBC News, the Ministry of the Attorney General confirmed the Crown won't appeal to have the case revived, but wouldn't comment on why. Decisions by the Crown to appeal are made in accordance with the Crown Prosecution Manual, said Ministry spokesperson Maha Abdurrahman after Carefully considering the matter in accordance with this policy, the court decided not to appeal. The ministry has no further comment. Yo, that's a case where guards facing trial for the death of a loved one. I'm sorry. That's a case where guards facing trial for the death of her loved one could suddenly evaporate as egregious, said Warriner Sisters Denise. It appears anyone who is anointed with any use of power, use of authority, has a license to kill, she said. With the path to a criminal trial now closed, she says she's not ruling out other legal options. Good. You better do everything. It's a fight, she says. It's a fight she says has consumed her, but one she feels compelled to continue, not only for her sister, for the others who are marginalized and vulnerable as well. All the while, she says, the memories of her sister with her family at the dinner table are interrupted by those of her final conscious moments with the guards alone. Her life was extinguished. It haunts me. Yo, this man, wow. It sounds like the staff at that hospital was feeling themselves a little bit too much and thought that they could just do whatever, and they made a real bad mistake and then tried to cover it up. That's what it seems like to me. But what's even worse is, wow, you. It seems as though the judge like ain't no way in hell to. Wow, wow. Anyway, guys, we're leaving it here. But leave it in the comments what you think really happened. What do you let's hear what you guys think what happened. I'm even open to wrong answers. I'm even open to wrong answers. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that maybe this is all just like a winky dink? Or do you think that there's something a little bit more sinister going on here? Or do you think that these people are just thugs and they're just the system is in their favor because they weren't following this person wasn't following procedure and these people are third rate citizens because when you don't follow same thing. You become a third rate citizen, so your life doesn't matter. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.